is Notsam Wrestling.
Introducing your host from New York, here is Sam Roberts.
Becky Lynch is the hottest thing in wrestling right now.
Strong.
The hottest thing in wrestling right now. Becky Lynch is hotter than the Elite is, than the Young Bucks are. It's all Becky Lynch right now.
This is very strong.
Her moment, and she's within reach of being unanimously the biggest main roster star in WWE, not female, the biggest star. That's Becky Lynch is the athlete people are talking about. Like when you talk to people that don't watch WWE anymore, that did at one point, that don't anymore, they all are like, yeah, but I'm interested in what this Becky Lynch is doing.
Really?
100%. I mean, I've literally had the conversations. Ariel Helwani was just talking about it on the MMA show.
I think that's great, but you're going to put her over Rousey right now?
Absolutely.
Really?
I mean, listen to the audience. They booed Ronda.
Yeah, but you just said a non-wrestling audience.
Yeah, but listen to the WWE audience.
Oh my gosh, it's huge.
They care about Becky more.
Which I think is interesting to watch the last 2 months transpire to hit that point.
Right. It's real life and it's organic. With Becky.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what, yeah.
But getting cheered.
But even a non-wrestling audience becomes aware when there's somebody who's like, when it's somebody who's like Becky Lynch, like Ronda Rousey, you expect. Like, don't get me wrong. A non-wrestling audience is still very interested in Ronda Rousey. A wrestling audience still very interested in Ronda Rousey. The Ronda Rousey experiment, let's call it, has been nothing but success. Like, Ronda Rousey's amazing. She has taken to this stuff so well.
Yep.
Like,
agree.
Ronda Rousey is going to take the women's division has taken the women's division to the mainstream. Like, this is it. Ronda Rousey is that last step that the women in the WWE needed to take that division to that level. But it can't just be Ronda Rousey fighting the women of the WWE. You've actually developed an opponent in Becky Lynch that people are interested in. Like, if you were to tell me that it's Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania, a mainstream audience is not sitting there saying Ronda Rousey versus some WWE girl. They're saying, oh, that's she calls herself the Man. Like, oh, that's interesting. Like, oh, that's that Becky Lynch I keep hearing about. It's happening, and it's amazing to see because it's not happening with other people at this moment. It has, but at this moment, Becky Lynch is the standout on both shows.
I feel it fair to give Charlotte a little of that spotlight, too.
She was amazing on SmackDown.
No, but there's no was. I think it's a current. I think it's what Charlotte has done to this day for the women's division. I think she's as mainstream as you're giving Becky Lynch, if not more.
It's less.
Oh, I disagree with you.
I mean, you're going to see the Man t-shirts everywhere you go. You're not seeing Do It With Flair t-shirts everywhere you go.
You're seeing more people know who Charlotte Flair is.
Incorrect.
Subjective.
You'll see more people who know the name Flair, but not Charlotte.
Oh, another strong disagreement.
I mean,
I think she has paved her own path, undeniably.
I love Charlotte. Like, this isn't shade being thrown.
I understand.
But Charlotte is like, Charlotte for a long time has been the flag bearer for the women's division. Like, for a long time, I would say Charlotte is as close to a John Cena as the women's division has. Right? Like, Charlotte is the standard bearer for the women's division. But Becky Lynch is becoming a bigger star than most of the men on the roster. And she's right there, but she doesn't surpass the men on the roster in terms of, like, fame.
So that's a debate right there.
Yeah, I love it. And I think that Charlotte is, and look, Becky, I think, is the one that is really making the difference. I think Charlotte is completely stepping up to the plate and showing that she's just as good. I think Ronda's right there.
What planet are we on right now?
I mean, all you got to do is watch the show.
I do. Clearly.
Yeah.
You're making a very bold statement right now.
Oh, yeah.
You're almost putting you're saying that Charlotte's got to work to get to where Becky is right now.
In this moment, yeah, for sure.
I'm not seeing eye to eye with you.
Let me ask you. Survivor Series. The Charlotte Ronda match that happened, 3 from the top, was right where it should have been on the card, right? By the way, great match.
This isn't a fair assessment, though, because
no
that
build?
was like a...
That's fair. No, you're right.
No
build up. But
Oh, go ahead.
Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey has become a bigger match. Even now, there's been build up.
But I don't think that's fair because I think the Charlotte story would have lived at a different time. I think it had to happen too quickly. I don't think those are two parallels.
But now there's been build up with Charlotte, right? Because we've had this match that had no real resolution. They've gone back and forth on TV.
Uh-huh.
It's still not as big a match if you announce that it's Ronda versus Becky.
But but again, I stand firm on that. I don't think that's fair because it was thrown into a time where it shouldn't have been thrown into.
So that kind of screwed everything
it kind
up.
of eclipses the whole...
We have to reassess the way we look at everything.
Correct.
Okay. Now, I'll tell you what I thought about the women's division. To me, the women's division is the best thing on SmackDown. The WWE Championships, everything is great on SmackDown. Almost everything is great on SmackDown. They're doing good with the tag teams. I think that going back to highlighting the Usos again, awesome, because they're so good. The WWE Championship story, as I said, is great. But I think that the women's division, to me, is the most compelling. They announced Charlotte versus Becky TLC in a TLC match, which I said, that's amazing, right? I love that. I didn't think I needed another Becky versus Charlotte match, but I'm on board. And then they said, actually, we're going to have a battle royal, and we're going to make it a triple threat. And I went, I don't know. When Asuka came out, it was the same thing that happened to her at Survivor Series. It was like, Asuka's another one. Well, you know how much I love Asuka.
Uh-huh.
Like, you've known this for a long time.
Yep.
And I'm so happy to see that even though she hasn't done all that much since WrestleMania, that not one fan is forgotten, right? Like when Asuka comes out, even if she's not in a position to be the Asuka of old, no fan has accepted that. Like the reaction that Asuka gets is so much different. Asuka's right there with Charlotte and Becky is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Even though she's kind of cast in the sort of general, here's the women in the division, Asuka's one of them. I think most of the fans know that Asuka deserves to be in that upper echelon of the division. Is that fair to say, do you think?
I don't think she's as big as Charlotte and Becky. I feel the same way. I think she's amazing.
Right.
Goes
right.
without saying. I don't know if I'd put her at that level.
Well, here's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
So she gets put into the triple threat.
Yep.
It's Asuka versus Becky versus Charlotte. And immediately I said, fantastic. Fantastic. Here's what happens in the world of Sam Roberts, the last professional broadcaster.
Okay.
The triple threat, first of all, you can have an amazing match with these three women.
Oh,
Obviously, Becky doesn't mind throwing fists, right? We know Charlotte doesn't mind throwing fists. She was raised right by that dad of hers who, he'll get in there and scrap. Mm-hmm. And clearly, Asuka, the queen of strong style, doesn't mind kicking somebody as hard as she can in the face.
Where are you going with this, Sam?
Meaning this is going to be an incredible match. It's going to be a great TLC, brutal match. It's going to be great. What I would like to see is Asuka to shock the world. I don't think anybody sees this coming at this moment as we speak. Asuka should leave TLC the SmackDown Women's Champion.
You're crazy.
Okay, that's what I was looking for, Linendoll. That's what I was hoping you'd say.
No, you're crazy.
Okay, well, you want to stick with me on this one?
I do, but I also.
Or do you want to
hit?
You want to hit me? You want to hit me with your rebuttal now?
No,
Okay.
I'm still have one sentence to make though, and I got to get it out of my system.
Say your sentence.
Okay, and then it's a little bit of a digression, just to hear me out.
That's fine.
The comparison you made with Becky and Charlotte. And sorry. Let me just come back for a second. Who's getting all the covers of magazines? Who's getting all the mainstream media press?
Getting or got?
Getting.
Got.
Okay. Prove me wrong on that.
Okay, because I'll say got.
Really?
Yeah.
You're already there. Mm-hmm. All right.
I mean, look,
I disagree.
The Becky thing is new.
No. You're wrong.
But we've never
You're wrong.
seen anything like Becky before.
No, and I don't want to sound like the bad guy here because I think where it's going
Razor
is
Ramon?
amazing. But I don't think it's there.
Okay. It is. But, so.
Okay, we go back to where we were. Go back to
Okay,
where we were.
because you already. First, I was crazy for what I said about Becky and Charlotte, and now I'm sitting here telling you Asuka needs
Yeah,
to
you're
leave with the
making
championship.
crazy statements.
And you're like, what the hell is going on with you, Robert?
Yeah. Are you on like bath salts?
I'll
'Cause-
tell you. I'll tell you. Yes, I'm about to eat your face. Listen. So, Asuka, we need to be reminded how good Asuka is. Because we haven't been since WrestleMania. Leading up to WrestleMania, she was undefeated forever. Like, there was a really good chance she was going to beat Charlotte at WrestleMania. There was half the audience said, I think Asuka's going to win. Half the audience said, I think Charlotte's going to win.
It's actually hard to think back to that
Exactly.
point. I have to give you that,
Exactly.
you know.
Right. Because since WrestleMania, that's been swept under the rug. So, based on the fan reaction that she gets, that leads me to believe that everybody knows, everybody remembers, she won the Royal Rumble, Asuka. You remember in January? She won the Royal Rumble. The first ever Women's Royal Rumble was won by Asuka. You know? And that's, again, something that, you know, Asuka of this moment, she doesn't strike you as the woman who won the Royal Rumble this year, does she?
It's weird to think that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think we need to be reminded of that, and we would effectively be reminded of that if Asuka won the SmackDown Women's title. Now, triple threat rules. What does that mean? To become the champion, do you have to beat the champion? No. Asuka should pin Charlotte at TLC. Okay? Asuka leaves with the championship after pinning Charlotte. She never beat the champion. You protect Becky. Becky is still the man because she never even got beat. She lost the title, but she didn't get beat. Charlotte got pinned. Now, there's
Okay.
some kind of chicanery. Like, Asuka got a lucky pin, right? This isn't Asuka laid out Charlotte and is declared the winner. Asuka, just the timing was right. Maybe Becky hit Charlotte with something, and Asuka rolled her up or grabbed the... I don't know if it's going to be ladder match rules or not, but, you know, Becky and Charlotte laid each other out, and Asuka ran up and grabbed the title.
Maybe
if it's
a little ref gate.
Could be Refgate. Let's get Chuck Robinson involved. You know what I
Always
mean?
screwing it up.
He screws it up every time.
Everything.
But this way, what are you left with? You're left with Asuka defending the title at the Royal Rumble, right? Theoretically.
Okay.
Unless she doesn't defend the title at the Royal Rumble. You're left with Charlotte saying, Asuka, you got lucky. I beat you at WrestleMania. You got a lucky win at TLC. I want my rubber match with you. I want my third match with you because I want that title. Becky, but you didn't beat me, Asuka. I want the title. I want the title match. At the same time, Ronda's over here. She's done with Nia Jax, Charlotte and Becky, and Ronda and Asuka, and now it's all kind of figuring out who's who. So where does this leave us? This leaves us at the second annual Women's Royal Rumble. And now you've got a potential of putting Charlotte and Becky in the Royal Rumble. Could you tell me right now who Ronda Rousey is going to face at WrestleMania? Or could you narrow it to two?
You go first.
It's either Charlotte or Becky. But you can't...
That's kind of a gimme, though, right?
Of course. But you can't call it between the two. Because the stories are still active with both. Right?
Okay.
Like, it could... What I'm saying is it could be either of those two. Would you go with me on that?
Yes.
Definitely. So now... And, by the way, not only do we know as fans that it could be either of those two with a match with Ronda at WrestleMania, but both of those two also have a problem with Asuka from TLC. So now we're in the Royal Rumble, and we've got Becky and Charlotte. We don't know who's going to win. Because one of them is clearly going to fight Asuka. One of them is clearly going to fight Ronda, but we don't know who's who. So the Royal Rumble is what's going to leave us with the opportunity to have that. I put Becky as the winner. Becky challenges Ronda Rousey. Because we don't know. I mean, as we're sitting there at the Royal Rumble, we're watching. I hope she challenges Ronda Rousey, but she very well may challenge Asuka because we know that the Charlotte versus Ronda match might happen as well. But she doesn't. She challenges Ronda, and now we're left with a WrestleMania where we've got a rematch between Asuka and Charlotte from last year. One of the best WrestleMania matches of the year last year. And we've walked our way into Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey. If Asuka wins the title at TLC, we can organically get to a WrestleMania where it's Becky Ronda and it's Charlotte Asuka.
That's a far projection,
But does it work?
but strong.
Thank you. Thank you. Wouldn't you be excited for WrestleMania if I told you those were the two women's title matches?
I'm excited for WrestleMania right now.